Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. In our first story, we'll tell you about an attempt to ruin the life of our OP by his former boss. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. My old employer tries to sabotage my new job. Cast. AM is awesome manager. AO is awesome owner. CB is crazy B, old boss. M is me. So after a bunch of bullcrap, I finally quit my old job. I made sure that I had another one lined up before quitting. My old boss was not happy that I quit during our busy season and decided to be petty, and rather than give me my check while I was there in the store, decided to mail it out instead. I started my new job and absolutely love it. However, it's just across the street from my old one. First day of work goes pretty well. My coworkers are awesome. The job itself is super fun and interesting. I'm told by the person I'm shadowing I did great. Despite the job being awesome, I noticed my old boss walk past the window a few times and thought it was super odd and mentioned it to my coworker. The next day, my manager wants to speak with me. She told me that I had 2 complaints made against me. One said that I'd openly insulted this woman's children and ability to parent. I was pretty shocked. I had no idea what these complaints were. I never said these things. My coworker backed me up and said it never happened. My manager explains that she finds the complaints as shocking and that even though it doesn't seem like something I do, she still has to bring it up with the owner. As I'm doing my job with this dark cloud over my head, I see my old boss on her phone pacing in front of the store. I turn to my current manager and go, "That's my old boss. That's blank." Weird. She was out there the other day too. The next day I spent my day off, super worried that the owner was going to let me go the next time I show up to work. Then I got a text from my manager. AM. "Hey, what did you say your old boss's name was again?" Me. "Crazy B? Why'd she come by again?" AM. "No, I think she may be the one who complained about you." I'm looking into it with AO, but yeah, what a jerk. Now, I had a hunch that it might have been what happened, but I wasn't 100% sure. My old boss was not the nicest person and was very bitter about me leaving. I was her only full-time employee, and I left during the busiest season. I didn't think she'd stoop that low. I show up for my next shift and was greeted by the owner. She said she wanted to talk to me for a second. We go in the back, and she says, "I wanted to let you know that it was your old boss that made the complaints." Her full name's in her email. "I'm just going to write these complaints off, and I'm going to take care of this, okay?" I'm a bit shocked that it turned out to be true, but relieved that the complaints were not going to get me fired. AO and AM both walked over to my old job and called Crazy B out on her nonsense in front of her employees. Then AO let security know about Crazy B and said she's not allowed anywhere near the store. Send your old boss a letter saying that any further attempts to defame you will be met with a lawsuit. And our second story, Karen in the ER. So my boyfriend had a little accident at work today and needed some stitches. While we were waiting, a car stopped right at the entrance. We assumed they had someone disabled in the car and just wanted to unload real quick and then find parking. Well, guess what? It was Karen, and she was alone in the car. She got out and waddled inside. Seriously, she walked like a penguin. If the dialogue seems a bit weird, that's because I left quite a bit out and only gave you the most important sentences, which I paraphrased to give you all the info you need. Or do you need 5 versions of, "I'm gonna sue you," etc.? A nurse filling out paperwork with us shouted at her, "You cannot park there. That's for ambulances bringing in emergencies." "I'll be just a minute. I just have a few questions." While she said that, she kept walking. "Be that as it may, this is for ambulances only. Seriously, you need to park your car away." Karen just waved her hands like swatting away an annoying fly and started to walk faster. Now the nurse suddenly talked in a very hushed voice so that we could hear her, but Karen could not. "We have our own tow car that can be here in 2 to 3 minutes. Move away now or your car's gone by the time you return. If a car's blocking an emergency entrance or exit, it can cost lives. So they're not messing around, even when most of the time they only tow people parking in the handicap spaces for no reason." Then she winked at us and said, "You both heard me warning her, right?" "Yes, loud and clear. You warned her she'd get towed." Nurse called security on her radio, and within 2 minutes, they were hooking her car up. We were still waiting when I suddenly heard a screech, "You B! Where's my car? I have places to be!" "Security's on their way. They'll explain to you where it is." "They better bring my car or I'll call the police for theft." Nurse, seeing that security was already almost behind her, told her, "I was calling after you telling that you can't park there. This is for emergency vehicles. But you ignored me even when I shouted after you that you'll be towed and that this will be an expensive mistake." Karen lost it and tried lunging at the nurse, but the nurse just stepped back and security grabbed her, so she hit the security guard instead. They tackled her and called police. To make a long story short, police came and we told them the nurse shouted after her that this was for emergency vehicles only and that she'll be towed several times, but Karen didn't listen. Karen got arrested for assault and a whole bunch of other stuff. The nurse later brought us to the examining room and told us the assault was probably her biggest mistake. She only wanted to teach her a lesson by making her pay for the towing, but since they had to call the cops, she'll also get a ticket for blocking the entrance to an ER and the fine that's a lot higher than just towing, plus all the charges. Who in their right mind thinks it's okay to block an ER entrance and assault a nurse? And our next story. If you want to destroy employee morale and benefits, then maybe you won't work here anymore. Several years ago, I was just out of college and took a job at a large, well-known alcohol store that rhymes with Total Shine and Floor. I was hired as a seasonal employee for the Christmas section. After working there a few weeks, the permanent employees were telling me about how the current store manager, SM, was relatively new. When SM became the boss, he changed all the full-time employee schedules so that none worked more than the maximum number of hours per week. I think it was 35, before the state required they be provided benefits like health insurance. Before SM, many of the full-timers had set hours and benefits. SM also began creating the employee schedule with no regard to employee input of their availability, as many had second jobs and childcare obligations, nor what the schedules looked like before he came in as SM. He was also not wonderful about customer service. I was a merchandiser, which meant I was responsible for moving the boxes and pallets around the store and stocking shelves. I knew absolutely nothing about wine, but I was and am a beer geek, so I was always happy to help with beer questions. There was one instance I went out of my way to get beer from the storage shelf, which needed a ladder to access, to get a case that was out of stock on the customer shelf. The storage area had zero organization nor record keeping, so finding a case could take a while. After finding and retrieving the beer, he pulled me aside and said that I should have just told them we're out and to only put that kind of effort in if somebody's spending a lot of money, which really set me off, and I fumed silently the rest of the day. To no one's surprise, the store became a revolving door for workers. As this had already been going on for several months by the time I started, when the holiday season was nearing the end, SM radioed me to come to the office one day. When I get there, he's looking at the computer and says, "Hey, OP, we'd like for you to convert to full-time." What a surprise. We were down to 3 or 4 merchandisers by this time. But if you're not, I need to know by January X, which was 3 weeks away. If you quit after that, it counts against my employee turnover numbers. While I was planning to quit the following week since I lined up a much better job that didn't need me urgently, I decided I'd do my part and wait. The day after the turnover date, I quit. Several months later, I visited the store, said hi to folks, and asked where SM was. To my great amusement, SM had been let go shortly after my departure. I'd like to think I did my part to help that along. How tone-deaf do you have to be to give people who don't like you specific information to hurt you? And our last story. My husband outranks yours. My first husband was a Marine. On base, there's a commissary. It's just a huge grocery store, and only military and their families can shop there. Prices are lower than the store in town, and you don't pay tax. Every service member gets paid the same day. I learned to wait a couple of days before I went shopping, but there were some days when we were out of everything and I had to go on payday. The lines got ridiculously long, curving around the entire store. One day, some woman started pushing her way to the front of the line, loudly bragging that her husband was a master sergeant and outranked all of ours, so she deserved to go first. Then a woman at the back came up and started telling her off. This was almost 10 years ago, so I don't remember the exact dialogue, but she was basically reaming her for wearing her husband's rank, saying that her husband earned that rank, not her, and she wasn't entitled to anything. Furthermore, the grocery store lines had nothing to do with rank, and even if her husband was here, he'd still have to wait. Woman 1 came back with, I don't know who you think you are, but my husband can destroy your husband's life. Don't mess with me. Woman 2 says, oh, you mean a master sergeant outranks the base general? I'll have to let my husband know that he has a new boss. What's your husband's name? Woman 1 kind of went pale and walked to the back of the line. See, military members are responsible for the behavior of their families, and her husband could have faced disciplinary actions. She knew this, but didn't expect anyone to question a master sergeant's wife. Cracked me up. A lot of wives flaunt their husband's ranks, thinking it makes them look better than everyone else. Watching her get put in her place made my day. Too many military wives think they own everything because they're married to a soldier. Like, ma'am, did you even serve a second in the military? Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.